Today we'll be looking at the muscles of the shoulder, so predominantly the three heads of the deltoid muscle as well as the trapezius in the back. So the deltoid muscle is broken up into three different muscles. The deltoid, the anterior head of the deltoid, the middle head of the deltoid, and then the posterior head of the deltoid in the back. Now, all three can be accessed and singled out and worked, although I'm going to show you some exercises that get all of them today. The trapezius muscle is that muscle that looks like a lowercase t that inserts right at the top of the neck, down under the top of the shoulders, and then runs down the spinal column in the middle of the back. Those are the muscles that predominantly comprise the shoulder. We'll be taking a look at exercises that stress those today. The muscles of the deltoids can be worked, as well as the trapezius, by lateral raises and frontal raises, as well as bent over lateral raises to access the posterior delts. So, to access the anterior delts, or the deltoids in the front, we're just going to use an overhand grip on the handle of the dumbbells here, and we're just going to lift those with a relatively straight arm. Don't lock your elbow, but keep that arm relatively straight. And we're just going to lift that right out in front of us. And that's one rep. So from the side, keeping a good upright posture, straight spinal column, good base, just lift that straight out in front of you. And that's stressing that front portion of the deltoid muscle. Is the head of the deltoid muscle directly in the middle of that shoulder. So right there, as opposed to the anterior, we're now working the middle head of the deltoid. From the side, that looks just like this. From the front, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, it should look very similar to this. Now, in order to access the posterior head of the deltoid, what we're going to do is called a bent over row. Now the bent over row, just find yourself a piece of equipment or a bench that allows you to put your upper torso into a 45-degree angle, and then much like a reverse fly, we're just going to take that dumbbell and lift it out. So it's very similar to a lateral raise, but in orienting our upper body at an incline like this, that allows us to access the posterior deltoid, or the back side of the shoulder. This also, as well as the lateral raise, the standing lateral raise, as well as the bent over lateral raise, engages the trapezius muscle right on the top of the shoulder, as well as a little bit down into our middle back. Next we'll move on and I'll show you an overhead press. Alright, now we're going to move on to an overhead press. Some call it a military press. Either way, it's an excellent exercise for upper body strength and definitely stresses the shoulders. So this exercise can be done either standing or seated, and I'll show you both versions. This is the beginning point. You're going to start with those dumbbells right in front, right above the shoulders, just in front of the shoulders, right above your biceps. And from this position, neutral grip like this, we're going to go up and rotate our arms so our palms are facing outwards from our body and back down. That's one rep. Rotate at the wrist, back down to the starting position. We're going to keep a good solid base, as well as a good upright posture throughout. And that motion from the side should look just like this. One more time from the front. Now I recommend doing this exercise in a mirror as you're facing the mirror so you can watch yourself and so you can keep your shoulders as well as the weight trajectory on an even plane with the other one. It's really easy to injure the back and or the spinal column if you don't keep those shoulders on a level. You want to keep them at the same level throughout the motion. Now the seated looks exactly the same. It just offers a little more stability for your back. You should keep your back engaged with the seat at all times, and don't arch if you're struggling with the weight. Drop your weight down. So with weight, we should begin with a weight that you know you're capable of lifting. So if you don't know, start small. Start with a 5 pound, start with a 10 pound, and then incrementally go up. With almost everything, we're going to be using 10 reps to 12 reps, 3 sets, 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps each time. Starting just in front, up and rotate out, and then back down. Each time, keeping your entire spinal column in contact with the back of the seat. That'll help alleviate the stress on the back and allow you to really get a good shoulder workout. The final exercise we'll look at to exercise the shoulders is a shrug. Now this looks almost exactly the way it sounds. With the weights hanging down by our sides, we're not going to lift with our arms in any way. Instead, we're going to allow the trapezius muscles on the tops of our shoulders as well as the deltoids to do all the heavy lifting. So from this beginning hanging position with the dumbbells in our hands, we're just going to shrug up and then lower under control. Shrug up and lower under control. This is a great exercise for shoulder strength as well as strengthening that neck from the side view. Good posture. Tall spinal column. And just as with the overhead press, we want both those shoulders rising and falling on the same plane to alleviate the stress on the spinal column. So today we looked at the muscles of the trapezius running from the neck on the tops of the shoulders and then down the middle of our back, as well as the deltoid muscles, all 3 heads, the anterior deltoid in the front, the middle head of the deltoid in the middle, and then the posterior deltoid in the back.